We'll be right back after these quick words from our sponsors. This is Rogue Media Network.
When you learn a language with Babbel, you start a journey that takes you further and further. Anytime and anywhere you wish. It's easy and fun. Broadens your horizons and keeps your brain fit. A journey into new thoughts, new cultures, new adventures. So what are you waiting for? Start your journey with Babbel now. Go to babbel.com or download the app.
BadCreditLoans.com is a pioneering service provider that has carved a reputation in the financial industry for its dedication to helping individuals with bad credit secure loans. By making timely repayments, borrowers can gradually repair their credit history, thereby increasing their chances of securing better loan terms in the future. BadCreditLoans.com serves as a beacon of hope for those with bad credit. Simple, fast, and reliable loan application process. And its commitment to responsible borrowing makes it a trusted partner in the journey towards financial stability.
Did you know nearly all stock price changes of 10% or more result from a single news headline? These news catalysts create trading opportunities every day. All you need is a little help to reach out and take them. It doesn't matter if your investment budget is small or big. All you need is Benzinga Pro and its powerful news alerts, price tracking, and portfolio monitoring. Subscribe now, and we'll skyrocket your portfolio today.
OsleyMD.com.
I've always had thin hair my whole life. It breaks off at a certain length. In the last 6 months, I've noticed it just really bad. I mean, you could totally see it. I wear a hat a lot. I tried several different products. My experience with the Bosley MD hair regrowth kit was amazing. It was easy to use. It let me take off my hat. I could go in public and have my picture taken and feel normal again.
OsleyMD.com.
And now, back to our show.
Hello and welcome on into the Cam Show, powered by Rogue Media Sports Network. I'm your host, Cam Stewart. Zach Burke keeping us on the air, as he does 5 days a week, keeping you up on everything going around in the world of Boston hockey and, in general, Boston sports. Of course, available live on YouTube every weekday, and then available wherever you get your podcasts as well. Today, we will look at some trade targets for the Bruins because they can still be active in the trade market here, and Don Sweeney said going into this summer, that's primarily where they're going to look. There are some great young centers out there on the trading block the Bruins could absolutely go after. We will go after, or we will look at those guys that they can go after. We will also take a look at really a monumental moment in hockey history yesterday. Certainly a monumental watershed moment of hockey history in the United States that happened yesterday. We'll break down that and what it looks like for the number one prospect in next year's draft. Gavin McKenna coming to play in the United States. Could be a guy that the Bruins are in on as well. And speaking of Boston sports, Alex Bregman now has some candidates for a trade deadline deal. Why the Red Sox absolutely 1000% cannot and should not and hopefully will not trade Alex Bregman. All that and more coming up on this episode of The Cam Show. But we start where we start. I'm old enough to remember a time last month where Don Sweeney said that the Bruins were going to be aggressive in the trade market in this offseason. I don't think a lot of us expected them to make a huge splash in free agency. They didn't. They spent more money than they probably should have in free agency. We'll get to that on another day. But the trade market is an interesting piece of this summer because there is still a trade market out there in the NHL. There are a couple of big-time right-shot defensemen, which the Bruins definitely need some depth at. And there are some big-time, young, potentially franchise centers out there on the block. That's what we're going to focus on today. 3 centers that the Bruins could still go out and make a trade for. And I'm going to go one that makes a ton of sense, one that's a bit of a long shot, and one that's somewhere in between. So without any further ado, let's strap in and let's do this thing. First center the Bruins should go after, Mason McTavish of the Anaheim Ducks. It almost makes too much sense for the Bruins to go out and trade for Mason McTavish from Anaheim. Like, he is just right up the alley of everything that Don Sweeney and Cam Neely wants, while also having the things that other Bruins fans and other organizations would love to have in their center. Okay, he's kind of a bruiser. He's 6'1", about 220 pounds. He's 22 years old and still has a ton of offensive skill. Like the ton of offensive skill that gets you picked third overall not all that long ago, 3 years ago. And in his age 22 season, for what is still a bad Anaheim Ducks team, he put up 22 goals, 30 assists, 52 points in 76 games, and had a plus-minus of 0 for a bad team. Like, we all think the Ducks are going to take a step this year, and I believe that as well. And they're promising. But they were still bad last year, and they have been bad ever since Mason McTavish has been there. And he has hit the ground running. Man, he's had 140 points in his first 3 seasons in the NHL for a team that's that bad. And we're talking ages 20 through 22. He put together 140 points in his first 3 seasons in the league. Like, that's a really impressive stat right there. And what's really weird about this scenario is the Ducks kind of just have other young guys who have performed better. Like, they're building around Cutter Gauthier. And I think they probably do want to keep Mason McTavish at the end of the day. It looks like he's going to be their 2C with a couple of veterans on either side, Chris Kreider and Mikael Granlund. But it sounds like Mason McTavish wants out. David Pagnotta had the report this week saying that Mason McTavish does not like his role in Anaheim and kind of the dwindling role that he would have, and that he probably wants out of California. And so that is going to, that's going to have a lot of teams lining up for McTavish, certainly. He doesn't have much control over where he's going, like some of the other guys on this list. He is an RFA, but certainly Toronto has been linked to him, which would be a heck of a deal. Vancouver has been linked hard with him. I don't think I don't think Anaheim is going to want to trade him within the division to somewhere like Vancouver. Ottawa becomes a very interesting one because Mason McTavish's dad is a scout for the Ottawa Senators, and they're a team that could use McTavish's services. And it's in the same division as the Bruins. They've got a better young core. They obviously made the postseason last year. Montreal is looking at him as well. They desperately need a 2C to kind of complete their young core. Montreal struggles with the cap space, as will the Bruins to a lesser extent. But to me, 22 years old, kind of like a power forward, excellent in faceoffs for a team that really, really struggled at the faceoff dot last year. He's been over 50% the last 2 seasons. His career, he's at 49%. So definitely a great guy with some great value at the faceoff dot the Bruins really need. And if he's going to give you 20 plus goals and 60 points, which is something that I think is fair to project for him as he kind of hits his stride and is still a couple of years away from his prime, that could be a huge move for the Bruins. And I think would be an absolute slam dunk. Makes a ton of sense for them to get a guy who is going to hit that physical mark that the Bruins fans and definitely Bruins management wants, but also has the skill that Bruins fans want, that this team needs, and that a lot of other organizations would identify as being a primary need. So Mason McTavish to the Bruins almost makes too much sense. The next one is the bit of the long shot one. Okay, so if you guys stick with me here, we go with the kind of makes all the sense in the world Mason McTavish trade to one that is definitely a bit of a long shot, and that is Jordan Kyrou of the St. Louis Blues. Because everyone's lining up for Jordan Kyrou, okay? The Blues are also in this kind of weird scenario like the Ducks, where Jordan Kyrou is an excellent player, but they have a ton of young guys that are kind of ready to step up for them. One of them being Jimmy Snuggerud, who came in at the end of last season. And Jordan Kyrou is the highest paid player on the team. They're willing to move off that contract and build around a young core, and can obviously get something serious in return for Kyrou. He's another guy in the prime of his career, 27 years old, 6'1", about 200 pounds, and he's been a machine over the last couple of seasons. 65 plus points in each of the last 4 years, 70 points in 3 of the last 4 years, breaking it down to 285 points in his last 4 seasons. We talk about the Bruins needing talent and skill and point production more than anything else, despite what Cam Neely and Don Sweeney will tell you through their moves. They don't need to get bigger and tougher. They need to get more skilled. They need to put more pucks in the net. 28th in the league in scoring last year. And here's a guy sitting out there who's coming off a 36-goal season, his third 30-goal season in a row as a center on a 15% shooting percentage last year. That is just the most juicy prospect out there on the trade market. Guys like Jordan Kyrou do not grow on trees, man. This perfectly lines up with the production that the Bruins need at the position the Bruins need. Two-way forward. Con, not very good at faceoffs for a guy who's playing as a top 6 role for a good playoff team. Again, the Bruins really need to get better at the faceoff dot. It's not the only thing, but he's been pretty bad at them, actually. 40% for his career. That percentage has gone down each of the last 4 seasons. He's been under 36% for each of the last 3. Like, that is really not good for a top-end center. Like, I think Jordan Kyrou is like a 30-goal center. The other con, the big one, he has a no-trade clause. And that's what makes this a really far-fetched deal for the Bruins. He would have to approve the deal. And let's be honest, guys. Why would he come to the Bruins? Like, why at this point would Jordan Kyrou be like, yeah, I'm in. I'm going to turn the Bruins around. Like, Montreal's after him, right? Like, that's a team with a ton of promise over the next few seasons. They really desperately need Jordan Kyrou. They're already a playoff team. They have a little bit less cap room than the Bruins do, but yeah, it would just make so much more sense for him to want to go play for the Canadiens than to play for the Bruins this year. Like, I don't know that you're going to sell many guys on being like, hey, you're a big part of this turnaround. And especially for a guy who is literally entering into his prime years right now, 27, 28 years old, when you tell him, yeah, I know you're on a playoff team right now and there are other playoff teams after you, but we'll be there in 2 years, it's not much of a sell. Mason McTavish, as a 22-year-old, saying, look, you've already played on some bad teams. We are on our way here. Like, we're going to figure this out in the next 2 seasons. You're going to be a huge part of that. You're going to play with some good veteran guys. Like, maybe that's a bit more of a sell for McTavish. But certainly not for Jordan Kyrou, for a guy who can kind of control his destiny and pick his spot where he wants to go. So that makes it a little bit more far-fetched, but absolutely he fits all the needs that the Bruins want, and pretty much everybody in the league would go for a guy like Jordan Kyrou at the right price. And it is worth noting in here that for these RFAs and for some of these trades on the table, the Bruins do have some capital for the first time in a while. Okay, they've got their first, second, and third round picks for each of the next 3 years. You add on the first round picks from the Carlo trade and the Marchand trade, and they've got 8 picks in the first 3 rounds of the next 3 NHL drafts. Okay, so the Bruins can throw some draft capital out there. They don't have great prospects, right? I think they could move off of someone like Matthew Poitras, who I did a segment on the other day. Check that out on YouTube if you didn't see it, of why I don't want them giving up on him. But what I mean by giving up on him is just stashing him down in Providence and him never seeing the light of day or playing him for half seasons in Boston. If you trade him for someone like Mason McTavish as a part of a deal for Mason McTavish, that's a big difference. Like, that absolutely would make a ton of sense. That's not giving up on him. That's using your assets well, which is something that Don Sweeney doesn't really do very well. So we looked at the one that makes a ton of sense, Mason McTavish. We've looked at one that's a bit of a long shot, Jordan Kyrou. Where's the in-between? It's someone I've talked about before. Number 3 trade option for centers for the Boston Bruins, Marco Rossi of the Minnesota Wild. This is a weird situation. It seemed like Marco Rossi wants out. He wants a long-term deal. He wants a payday. He's 23 years old. He's coming off a 60-point season. He hasn't missed a game in the last 2 years, and he's collected 100 points in that time. So certainly he is a young budding star as the number 2C for the Minnesota Wild, as someone who definitely could be a number 1C in the very near future for a playoff team. And there's been rumors about Rossi for a while now, about his trade value and Minnesota wanting to move off him. And then it kind of just suddenly went away in the last week or so since free agency opened. And Minnesota said they didn't get a significant enough offer for Marco Rossi, which of course really worries me as a Bruins fan and their potential to get him. But looking at the production, it's undeniable, right? Again, 24 goals, 36 assists last year, playing on a second line, playing alongside Matt Boldy for a Minnesota team that went to the playoffs again, and definitely had to, not same positions, apples for apples, but had to make up some production when Kirill Kaprizov was out for a lot of the year. Joel Eriksson Ek was out for a significant amount of time. So a lot of production expectations was shouldered by Marco Rossi in this year and kept Minnesota afloat and kept them going to the playoffs. But when I hear they didn't get a good offer for him, that makes me think Don Sweeney probably just threw out a 3rd round pick and Johnny Beecher and tried to get away with it. What I find really interesting about Rossi is it feels like a lot of Bruins fans are on the same page that they would love a guy like Marco Rossi, and I absolutely would too. He's 5'9". He's 182. He's the same size as James Higgins, which has divided Bruins fans into saying he's too small. But in the case of Marco Rossi, it's just fine. He's not that much older. He's 23, which is great. And again, durability, has played every game over the last 2 seasons. So maybe, shove the he's too small thing right up where the sun don't shine. The Bruins could absolutely use Marco Rossi. It kind of goes without saying. There have been several teams interested in the Wild center. But when you look at each of these 3 guys, Rossi, Kyrou, McTavish, all of them would be at least your second line center right now. And I honestly believe each of those 3 guys could slot in as your number 1 center tomorrow. Certainly in the case of Rossi and Kyrou. And I think you would do that. You could do that with Mason McTavish as well. Lest we forget, their top line center last year was not the one they were paying $7.75 million in Elias Lindholm. Wasn't him. The Bruins' top line center last year was Pavel Zacha, a middle 6 winger that you put on the first line at center because he plays well with David Pastrnak. And I'm not poo-pooing that idea. You do need somebody that plays well with David Pastrnak, but the Bruins also really need a center, a first-line center. James Higgins might be that, but he might be that in 3 to 4 years. I'm talking he could be in the NHL, not this next season, but the season after. But he ain't going to be a number 1 or 2 center on this team for another 3 or 4 years. By bringing in someone like McTavish, or dare I say Jordan Kyrou, but probably more likely Mason McTavish, you've accelerated that. Then in 2 years, you've got a young core where you've got 2 top 10 NHL draft picks at center for you, a 24, 25-year-old Mason McTavish and a 21-year-old James Higgins. And all of a sudden, the future is looking very, very bright. And by then, the Bruins should be in a playoff picture. David Pastrnak will still be in his prime. Charlie McAvoy will still be in his prime. Hopefully, you've got goaltending figured out by then. And all of a sudden, things are looking way, way up. Maybe even better than the way Montreal looks right now, which is scary how good they look right now, set up for the future. The Bruins could accelerate that rebuild, retool by just getting crafty in the trade market here. They've got draft capital to throw around. I'm not saying throw all of it out. We're in a position where we haven't been for a long time as Bruins fans, where they've actually got some premium draft capital. They've got some prospects in the system. You certainly need some more. So you can't just get rid of all of it. But if you're dumping a couple of premium picks for Mason McTavish, that's like betting on a sure thing. He's already produced in the NHL and he's 22 years old. That's like getting a top 10 draft pick. The only thing I don't want the Bruins to move off of, the only pick I'm no, please don't do it, is their own first round pick next year. Unless you're bringing in an absolute superstar, which isn't going to happen. The Bruins would be insane to draft, or the Bruins would be insane to trade their own number one pick for next year. That would be a fireable offense for Don Sweeney if you trade their own number one pick for next year for anything less than an absolute superstar. Because there are a lot of teams that are going to be on this Gavin McKenna sweepstakes, man. And what happened with the Islanders this past year, they were supposed to be picking, 10th? And they ended up picking number one. If you have the chance to get that kind of lucky for next year for Gavin McKenna, you do not mess with that. And the Bruins might not need to be lucky. They're going to be pretty friggin' bad. So anything less than a superstar, all-star kind of player, you do not trade your own number one pick for next year. Trade Toronto's. Trade your number one pick the year after that. Trade that Florida pick that you got for the Marchand trades. Probably not going to be very premium. But trade each of those other ones, just not your own first-round pick next year. That said, I think the Bruins can still be pretty active in the trade market, and there's still some pretty good names out there. McTavish, Kyrou, Marco Rossi. Let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments section below. Will Don Sweeney actually pull the trigger? Probably not. He's just blowing hot smoke up your ass once again. Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you want to see the Bruins get active in trades, you can find us live on YouTube every weekday, high noon Eastern time, and then wherever you get your podcasts as well. Check out the other videos on the channel, talking Bruins and a lot of hockey here on the channel. I'm your host, Cam Stewart. Zach Burke keeps us on the air 5 days a week. We're not going anywhere. We're going to take a short 2-minute break, and then we're going to come back with some of the most monumental news in the history of American ice hockey. Gavin McKenna is doing something that has never been done before, and it is a glorious moment for hockey in the United States. Let's talk about that next on The Cam Show.
We'll be right back after these quick words from our sponsors. This is Rogue Media Network.
Golf Partner, the world's largest golf store network, offers more purchasing opportunities than anywhere else. With a dominant market share and a wider selection of quality secondhand golf clubs than our competitors, we make it easy for you to enjoy the game with affordable, top-quality equipment. Join us at golfpartnerusa.com and discover why we're the trusted choice for golf lovers worldwide. That's GOLFPARTNERUSA.com. Golf Partner.
Since 2003, Bluehost has been empowering people to harness their brands online with innovative web hosting solutions. Trusted by over 2 million users, we're the longest-running WordPress.org recommended host. With Bluehost, you get a safer, better web experience, supported by the world's most popular site builder, and backed by our commitment to open source projects. Visit Bluehost.com today and take your website to the next level.
Experience the future of secure private cloud storage with Internex. Protect your files with end-to-end encryption, ensuring your data stays private and accessible only to you. Enjoy seamless, fast storage without compromising security. Visit Internex.com today and take control of your digital life. That's INTERNXT.com today.
Apollo Neuro is a new kind of wearable that helps your body recover from stress. It's like a wearable hug for your nervous system that helps you calm down and feel better. The Apollo wearable will send gentle vibrations to your body, like a song you can feel instead of hear. You feel better, you sleep better, and you can get back to being yourself. Learn more at apolloneuro.com.
And now, back to our show.
Welcome back to the Cam Show, Rogue Media Sports Network. I'm your host, Cam Stewart. Zach Burke keeps us on the air. We're live on YouTube, as we are every weekday, high noon Eastern time, and then available wherever you get your podcasts as well. We just talked about 3 Bruins center trade targets because apparently they're going to be active in the trade market. We're just continuing to wait on it here. So let me know what you thought about those. Let me know in the comments. Get involved in the comment section. If you missed it, you can rewind, or you can find our segment coming out later today on the YouTube channel. Now we shift gears. Yesterday was a monumental, historic day for American hockey, a true watershed moment in hockey history. The consensus #1 draft pick in the 2026 NHL draft, Canadian born and CHL raised, is playing college hockey in the United States next year. Truly shocking stuff. Gavin McKenna, not just the consensus number one pick, but definitely seen as the best number one pick prospect of this decade. Okay, he is the next in that line of the generational picks, maybe even more so than his cousin Connor Bedard. Okay, like we're talking Crosby, McDavid, Gavin McKenna. Like that's the kind of company that he's getting compared to in these draft prospect write-ups. And he was an absolute tour de force in Medicine Hat in the CHL, in the Western Hockey League last year. He comes from UConn. He's actually a pretty amazing story. He's coming from Whitehorse, UConn, which is like the middle of absolute nowhere. There's been like 2 UConn players ever in the history of the NHL. And he comes in as one of the very best prospects we have seen in a long time coming from the UConn. 129 points in 56 games last year for Medicine Hat, a 40-game point streak, 41 goals, 88 assists, and they won the WHL title. Yeah, this kid is a mega prospect. And what he did was so shocking is not only is he going to come play college hockey in the U.S., but he's going to play at a program that has absolutely zero footprint in the NHL. He's going to Penn State, which has produced 3 NHLers all time for a combined 45 games in the National Hockey League. Penn State has produced 9 NHL points ever. And they're getting the consensus best prospect in a long time, possibly the best prospect in a decade. And they're paying him over $700,000 of NIL money to come down to Happy Valley and play. Penn State just made their first Frozen Four last year. They're definitely a program on the rise, but this is crazy, man. Like to go and get somebody like this. He was the CHL Player of the Year last year, and he was the youngest player to do that since, he was the 3rd youngest player to win CHL Player of the Year, only behind Sidney Crosby and John Tavares. Like, this is absolutely crazy that you get a kid from complete obscurity out in the Yukon, First Nation Canadian, coming down to play college hockey at Penn State. This is huge for college hockey. This is huge for hockey in the United States. Never before has this happened. Obviously, we just got the ruling handed down this year that the CHL players can then go play in the NCAA. So it's very, very new in that sense. But really, I don't know that we've ever had a consensus first overall pick Canadian player that went and played college hockey in the U.S. The only one that comes close is obviously from a couple of years ago, Macklin Celebrini. I don't know that he was a consensus number one guy when he went in there, but came from Vancouver. Obviously, his dad was coaching in the Bay Area. He was a strength and conditioning coach for the Golden State Warriors, and he goes to Boston University. This is a different ball game. This is a college hockey program putting itself on the map because of NIL money and getting a potentially generational prospect. Like he's going to be playing at the Yost Ice Arena. He's going to be playing at Mariucci, playing Minnesota, Michigan, Ohio State. Hopefully, I'm checking the schedule every day to see when they release it, to see if he will play up in the Boston area at some point this season when he's at Penn State. But man, I can't overstate enough how crucial a moment this is for hockey in the United States. There are college hockey fans sprinkled around New England, the Northeast, and especially the Midwest who are going to be able to go out to see their local college team and see the best hockey prospect on the planet. That never happens. Never has happened. There have been some big-time prospects down there. Celebrini, watch Shaq Eichel play live at BU. It was a treat. It was an absolute treat to watch. He was obviously going to be the number 2 pick because that was McDavid's draft year. But it's just completely unheard of. And honestly, I wonder how Canadian hockey fans are feeling about it. Like, this is no shade. Like, the CHL is still great. But from some of the reports that I saw last night and some of the kind of roundtable shows talking about this commitment, these shows based in Canada, there was some real worry there that like the NCAA will overtake the CHL. And, you know, the Canadians get very protective of hockey and specifically their hockey prospects, right? Of like, this is our game. We don't want these kids going to America. They don't even like them playing in American NHL markets. But the fact that America could be putting together a developmental league in the NCAA that's just as good as the CHL is a watershed moment. Like, that is a huge deal. And obviously the NCAA has gotten much better in their NHL player development the last 10 years, I would say. Facilities are getting better. People are putting more money into it. There are better coaches down there. And the amount of prospects playing in college hockey right now has absolutely skyrocketed since I started watching 15 years ago, almost 20 years ago. That was like, okay, the best teams in college hockey will have one or two NHL contributors, right? Now it is some of the best prospects in the world are going to play in college hockey. And most teams in Division I have a guy who can play in the NHL. A lot of the power teams are sending several guys to the NHL. BU had like 10 draft picks on their team last year. That just didn't used to happen. It was very, very few and far between. This could change everything. They're going to get paid to play down here. And by the way, it could completely change the landscape of college hockey. Not just, you know, development-wise, but like, how does Penn State get this kid? And not BU, Denver, you know, North Dakota, one of these classic powerhouses. You know why? Because Penn State's got money. Penn State's got a football stadium that puts 100,000 people in the seats 6 Saturdays a year, every single year. Okay? They have got some FU money when it comes to paying kids NIL packages in any sport. And now they're investing in hockey. So is that gonna bring Minnesota out of the doldrums? Is that gonna make Ohio State into a powerhouse that they've never really been? You know, is that gonna do the same to Penn State? Is that gonna put Boston College over Boston University? Fuck no. Is that gonna change the landscape of what it looks like in college hockey? Gavin McKenna could be setting the bar for several different leagues and prospects just by this one move. It absolutely changes the NCAA. It changes in a small way the CHL, and it changes how every top prospect is going to look at their options when playing junior hockey. This completely changes the game. If you are a guy who just played, you know, how many games did he play in the CHL last year? I said it earlier. If you just played 56 games in the CHL, you're about to get drafted, or maybe you're in your draft year +1, and you get promised to go to an NCAA team with top-tier facilities. Okay, I'm talking like nutrition, weight room, shooting rooms, all this stuff that not all CHL teams can put together. You've got great coaching with it. You're going to take less of a toll on your body. You're going to play 38 games at most rather than 56. You're going to spend more time in the weight room, in the film room. Like, how does that not entice you? And you're going to get paid 6-figure salaries to go and play there. Like, how does that not entice you? July the 8th, 2025 was a massive watershed day for hockey in the United States. Gavin McKenna is changing the game and how we look at it by this one commitment. It's going to be fascinating to see this year and in the next 3 or 4 how many of these top prospects are going to play college hockey in the United States. Fascinating stuff for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. If you're a Canadian hockey fan, how does this make you feel about the CHL? Personally, I don't think you should worry that much, but this is the number one prospect Canadian boy going to play in college hockey. Let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. If you're an American hockey fan, how excited does it make you that you can see Gavin McKenna playing in your backyard next year? Get involved in the comment section. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you love hockey. Find us here live on YouTube every weekday, high noon Eastern time, and then wherever you get your podcasts as well. So check out the other videos on the channel, talking Bruins, talking hockey, talking Boston sports as well. Catch that from your host, Cam Stewart. That's me, and Zach Burke, who keeps us on the air 5 days a week. Coming up, it is a Boston sports show after all. There are some suitors in an Alex Bregman trade. Why the Red Sox should sell the team if they trade Alex Bregman. That's coming up next on The Cam Show.
We'll be right back after these quick words from our sponsors. This is Rogue Media Network.
At Open Goal USA, we're revolutionizing training for both soccer and lacrosse with our innovative portable rebounders. Perfect for players of all ages and skill levels, our rebounders improve accuracy, control, and technique in both sports. Built with premium materials for durability and ease of use, they're ideal for training anywhere, anytime. Whether you're perfecting your soccer game or sharpening your lacrosse skills, Open Goal USA has you covered. Visit OpenGoAAALUSA.com and elevate your training today.
Relax with Hemp Delicious. Organically grown hemp, massively blended with delicious organic herbs, responsibly sourced for their holistic benefits. Each sip offers calming, antioxidant-rich wellness. Brewed just for you. Sip the calm with Hemp Delicious. Find your blend at hempdelicious.com.
Introducing Muck Off's classic pink bike cleaner, powered by revolutionary nanotechnology that breaks down dirt and grime on a microscopic level while protecting your bike's delicate finish. Developed by our mad developer Alex and tested by riders, our products are made by riders for riders. Discover more at us.muc-off.com, where we break the mold to bring you the best in bike care.
Visit roguemediamusic.com for more music.
Are you ready to take control of your health? At 4U Health, we believe wellness and lab testing should be accessible, inclusive, and yes, fun. With our tech-powered at-home lab test, you save time and money while feeling your best. Say goodbye to long waits and office visits. Check your health on your own terms with 4U Health. Visit 4uhealth.com today and free yourself from traditional medicine. That's the number 4uhealth.com.
And now, back to our show.
Back to our show, which is The Cam Show on Rogue Media Sports Network. I'm your host, Cam Stewart, Zach Burke, keeping us on the air. We're live on YouTube as we are 5 days a week, and then, of course, wherever you get your podcasts as well, but you already know that. We've talked a lot of hockey in today's episode, 3 center targets that the Bruins could actually go out trade for, what Gavin McKenna is doing for the game of hockey right now. Man, if you haven't gotten in on the Gavin McKenna train, I don't know what you're waiting for. I mean, it is like poetry in motion to watch. It only comes every couple of years. You got it with Bedard. You got it with McDavid. You got it in a weird way kind of with Taylor Hall back in like 2010. These guys, you just like pay the price of admission just to see that kid. I would love to go see Gavin McKenna play live this year, and I'm glad I get the chance to do that in college hockey. Love that. And especially in a hub like Boston, I'm sure Penn State would love to come up and play in Boston. That would be a whole lot of fun. But anyway, now we got to talk other Boston sports, and let's shift it to the Red Sox. The Athletic is reporting that Alex Bregman has some suitors at this trade deadline, that there are 3 teams out there looking to secure Alex Bregman's services from the Red Sox. The Seattle Mariners, the Detroit Tigers, the Milwaukee Brewers, all 3 in on Bregman. We know certainly that Detroit was in on Bregman in free agency. Apparently, that's what it came down to, the Red Sox and the Tigers. The Tigers are a much better team than the Red Sox right now, but this would be a massive, massive mistake if the Red Sox traded Alex Bregman. I see the news that 3 teams are in on Alex Bregman at the trade deadline, and my first thought was just, can we not do that? Can we kind of just stop this tradition? I'm kind of sick of it. I know a lot of Red Sox fans are pretty sick of it. Can we just stop trading our best players? I don't think that's a lot to ask for, but being a fan of the Boston Red Sox. In fact, I think that's pretty standard if we could just keep the best players on the team around. Now, he hasn't played since late May. Okay, he's supposed to be coming back shortly after the All-Star break. In 51 games this year, he was probably the Red Sox best hitter. Okay, he was hitting just under 300, and he has an OPS of 938. He has an OPS plus that was 157 through 51 games. For those of you neophytes, for those of you at home, that means he's 57% better than the league average hitter. Like, he was worth the money, which is basically a 1-year deal at $40 million. It was really a 3-year deal, but he got 2 player opt-outs. He was phenomenal for them with this 109 total bases in 51 games. He was the right-handed bat in the middle of the order that you were desperate for. He had already hit 11 homers and had 17 doubles by the time we got to Memorial Day. Like, that's a guy you have to keep around. I know he's 31 and he's going to want a deal that's probably 5 or 6 years. Can't blame him for that. Okay. I know he's on the wrong side of 30. I know he's had an injury history. It's really been this injury twice over, but this is so much more. Trading Alex Bregman would signify so much more than just a player on the field. If you trade Alex Bregman, that is yet another FU to your fan base and saying, we don't care about building a championship team. We don't care about that. We don't care about the money you're spending and who you're going to spend it to go see. We don't care about championships anymore, which the writing has been on the wall for the Red Sox in that department in the last couple of seasons. But this would be the ultimate nail in the coffin. In the same season that you trade Rafael Devers, if you traded Alex Bregman, even if he's not going to, or even if he's going to opt out and go to market anyway, that would signify to your fans that you don't give a shit about competing in the AL East. It just means you don't care. You want to be cheap, and you want to have the cheapest team out there on the field and charge your fans more than any other fan base in Major League Baseball to go and see a game. Like, at what point do we draw the line in the sand? That's what this Alex Bregman trade rumor signifies to me. That at some point, the Red Sox need to draw a line in the sand and say, we are the Boston Red Sox. If you trade Rafael Devers and Alex Bregman in the same season, that signifies a complete organizational shift from the one that delivered you championships. Because what it is right now, if you trade those two guys in the same season, your organizational philosophy is we want young, homegrown, cost-controlled players until they aren't cost-controlled anymore. And then we'll fill in the rest of the roster with cheap nobodies. That's what they've got right now, for the most part. It's Roman Anthony and Marcelo Meyer and Carlos Narvaez, young, cost-controlled, homegrown guys. Jarren Duran in there as well. And then a bunch of cheap nobodies. Abraham Toro, Romy Gonzalez, Connor Wong, Walker Buehler. All of those guys would fit into that category. And by going with the latter, by using this organizational philosophy of we want our young homegrown guys because they're cost controlled and a bunch of cheap nobodies, then you are the Pittsburgh Pirates. You're the A's. You're the Rockies. You are no longer the Boston Red Sox because there's just no excuse. You have the money. Stop with the bullshit that you don't have the money. It's the 10th largest metro area in the United States. It's a top 5 baseball market in all of MLB. Cut the shit that you don't have the money. And where that would really affect the Red Sox if you trade Alex Bregman is the Roman Anthony sweepstakes. You want to do one of those Braves model deals that you did with, say, Don Rafaela and Christian Campbell and Brian Bayo and lock them up early at a cheap price for long term? Roman Anthony ain't playing that. Not with Scott Boras, he's not. No way. Number one prospect in baseball? Why do you think he hasn't pulled one of those deals yet? If they trade Rafi Devers and Alex Bregman in the same season, why on earth would he consider signing one of those deals with you? Oh, yeah, sure, I'll just play here for 8 years. I'll go through the prime of my career. Doesn't really bother me that the team doesn't want to win, has no interest in winning championships. It would be a catastrophic mistake. And it would be a tremendously bad black mark on your entire organization, not just right now, but in the future. And then the ballpark will be half empty. And they'll say, I guess we're going to need to charge more to make more money. And this cycle will repeat itself. If the Red Sox trade Alex Bregman and Rafael Devers in the same year, I will be at a game at Fenway Park this year with a paper bag over my head saying, sell the team. We would be firmly in sell the team territory. I don't give half a shit about the 4 other championships this ownership has delivered if that's what happens. So fucking spare me in the comment section if you're going to be one of those 65-year-olds saying, you kids don't know how bad we had it. Like, I fucking get it. Before 20 years ago, they didn't win a championship. But they always were trying. They were always trying. Okay? They were in a World Series pretty much every decade. This is an ownership group that doesn't want to spend the money, and they're not trying. They're not trying to win a championship. This is not, 1995. It's not 1978. It's not any of that shit. So before you pull that in the comment section, that's not what this is. This is an ownership group that wants to keep the money for themselves and wants to go off a model that has been made famous by the fucking Pirates. Because look where that gets you. Like, it is baffling to me as a guy who was born into a ton of Red Sox privilege. Okay? By the time I was legally able to drink, they had won 4 World Series championships. And I grew up in the best era of Red Sox baseball, man, where the expectation was 95 wins, postseason, ALCS, and a couple of rings to go with it. And they were ruthless in that. They were great at developing prospects. They got shrewd deals. They signed guys, even if it was to big money, they were good contracts. And they weren't afraid to spend to put a championship team on the diamond. Now they're not. They're not that. They have gone the complete opposite route. They were basically using a Yankees-Dodgers model 20 years ago, 15 years ago, at some points 10 years ago. And now they're trying to copy the Pirates for some reason. I know he's not a spring chicken. I know he's not, Mookie Betts, in that you're talking about a guy in the prime of his career who's going to be a Hall of Famer. But Alex Bregman, first off, could be a Hall of Famer. He's on the wrong side of 30. He's still a Gold Glover. He was still absolutely far and away your best hitter the first 2 months of the season. If you traded him, it could be irreparable damage to this fan base and to this generation of Boston sports fans. But maybe that's just my 2 cents. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Would you trade Alex Bregman for the right haul? Or are you saying no shot, got to keep him on board? Let me know in the comment section. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. You can, of course, find us on YouTube live at high noon Eastern time every weekday. And then we're available wherever you get your podcasts as well. Check out the other videos on the channel, talking everything else Boston sports, a lot of hockey here on the Cam Show. I'm your host, Cam Stewart. Zach Burke keeps us on the air 5 days a week. Appreciate you guys tuning in once again. Again, the numbers have been incredible over the last couple of weeks. This channel has really skyrocketed. Still about 95% of you watching are not subscribed to the channel. Do me a favor. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. That helps us out a ton. We're bringing you Boston sports content, mainly hockey, 5 days a week on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts as well. Check us out there. Check me out on Twitter at RealCamStewart. You can also check out the show on Instagram, which is posting reels every single day. That's at The Cam Show Show. So thank you guys so much. It has been a whirlwind couple of weeks watching this channel grow. So I appreciate each and every one of you. Tell your friends, follow us on social media, and find us on YouTube every damn weekday. Thank you to Zach for keeping us on the air once again. We will see you tomorrow on a little ditty that we like to call The Cam Show.
Transform your workspace with Hanomi Ergonomics. From adjustable chairs to standing desks, we provide solutions for comfort and productivity, whether at home or in the office. Improve your posture, reduce strain, and work smarter. Visit us at hanomi.co today. That's HINOMI.co today. Experience the future of secure private cloud storage with Internex. Protect your files with end-to-end encryption, ensuring your data stays private and accessible only to you. Enjoy seamless, fast storage without compromising security. Visit Internex.com today and take control of your digital life. That's INTERNXT.com today. Protect your online privacy with NordVPN. Browse securely, access content from anywhere, and keep your data safe with military-grade encryption. Whether at home or on the go, NordVPN ensures your digital freedom. Stay secure. Download NordVPN today at nordvpn.com. That's NORDVPN.com. We understand that maintaining a healthy lifestyle can be challenging, especially in today's fast-paced world. That's why our mission is to make fitness accessible to everyone, anywhere. Committed to excellence, we adopt a user-centric approach guided by ergonomics and medical science. With a team of seasoned professionals in R&D, design, and manufacturing, we prioritize quality across our entire product line. Visit TwoSains.com today and start your journey to better health. That's TOUSAINS.com.